Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. So today I'm going to review A Court of Mist and Fury. It's the second book in Sarah J. Maas's book series. I just finished reading it like 5 minutes ago. I had enough time to write my review on it and post it on BookBub, Amazon, and Goodreads, so everything's really fresh in my mind, so let's get into this. Okay, so I actually have zero complaints about this book. Other than, of course, Sarah J. Maas's writing style, which I talked about in my last review, that she can get away with like fragments and, incomplete sentences and like there was this and there was that and, stuff like that indie authors like me and my audience can't get away with. But that I've kind of gotten used to her writing style, so it doesn't bother me or impair my reading, and it did not actually impair my reading of this book like it did the first book. And I don't know if it's because the ideas of this book are so creative that they took me right out of editing mode and just allowed me to read for fun. My other complaint, of course, was the steamy scenes. This did have them. There was more of them in the beginning. There was quite a few of them. And then there was quite a few at the end. But the middle was completely clean. So the pacing of this book was really good. Last book, the first book, was like kind of slow to get started, and then when it got good, like when it started picking up, it picked up, and the pacing was just really intense. Whereas this book, I found that it started really fast paced and got into it quite quickly. And that's not necessarily saying that it's like a lot of action and stuff like that, but there was a lot of heavy character stuff, heavy plot stuff going on. And then the ending also too got very intense. The middle part for me of this book was what slowed down. So there was maybe like one chapter where I got kind of bored, one or two chapters where I got bored, but it was not anything to really deter me at all. The amount of twists in this book blew me away. The twists themselves, there's so many in this book that I feel like it almost has the psychological thriller kind of style to it, because there's so much just twist thrown at you. Like, I don't know how to describe it without spoiling things. Even though it's a fantasy romance. The fantasy plotline got really intense. There was a lot of lore, a lot of extra world building, we got to see some different courts this time. We got a lot of magic building. We got a lot of different spells. We had a lot of magic training. We got a lot of race building. There was a new race, the Illyrians, I think. Such a good race, such a good, oh my gosh. The character dynamics between characters was really good. One of my favorite character dynamics in this book, and probably the whole series, is going to be Rhysand and his boys, as I call them. So there's Rhysand, who is like the leader of the Night Court, and then there's his loyal guys. There's Azriel and Cassian, and there's Amarin and the girl Amarin, and then there's his cousin Morgan. And I absolutely love Rhysand, Azriel, and Cassian. Their dynamic is so amazing. They have this bro-ship that I just adore, and I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. And usually I see it in a lot of TV shows and stuff, so it's so amazing to see it in a book. I love Rhysand and Feyre's dynamic, and I love Feyre and Tamlin's dynamic. And then I also had some things that I really liked, and I was on the fence about the relationships in this book, the main relationships in this book. And I was okay no matter which direction it took. I was just sad about the one that got discarded, we'll say. But I do feel like it went in a good direction. Another thing that I really loved about this book too is that the author handles depression so well. At the beginning of this book, Feyre is so depressed, and she shows it so much, it's almost visceral. And the suffering of depression and what it does to a person, and then the slow healing process and recovery from that, and the effort that it takes, so good. There is one character in particular that I can't name. I love the secrets revealed about this character, the backstory, the history, what this character's gone through. It's just chef's kiss, exactly what I would have done. amazing. Ironically, actually, there's a funny story. So I was reading the beginning of this book, and when I read, I'm an author, I can't help it. I always ask myself, well, you know, I like this idea, but I could do it this way. Usually, that's enough to turn me away from reading a book, but in this case, I was interested to see where the author was going to take things. But I still had myself that question, well, what if this happened instead? And I came up with this whole story idea based on it, and come to find out, that's exactly what the author did at the end of the book. And I had no idea. Like, I was at the beginning still completely innocent of all this stuff. And so the fact that I accidentally predicted what she was going to do. And I came up with my own story idea based off of it before I got to the part that revealed that that was the case. It just kind of blew my mind a little bit. So that was kind of a funny experience. There's so much world building, especially within the Night Court in this one, and the races there. There's a lot of like sacrifice and just, oh, it's so amazing. And then the ending, the whole entire end boss fight scenario, as I like to call it, so intense. I was like speed reading. Last night I was reading and I wanted to get it finished. I was really close. I ended up having to stop in the middle of a siege. Okay, it's 5 a.m. It was 5:30 a.m. and I had to go to bed, so I had to stop in the middle of the main siege going on. So tonight I picked up in the middle of that, and I was just like reading. I've been reading since 1 o'clock, so it's only been an hour and a half, and I just finished, and I don't know what to do with myself now. I have book 3 on the shelf, and I'm tempted to read it. Yeah, I'm kind of off on a tangent here, but overall, I honestly don't have any complaints in this book. The spicy scenes, there was, I think, like 2 major ones and some smaller ones thrown in the beginning. At first, I thought they did not serve a purpose, and I personally feel like the beginning could have done without that, but looking at the whole story as a whole, there kind of was. I don't know. I still feel like the ones in the beginning were not necessary, just thrown in for spice. They're easily skippable if you are interested in reading this book. I highly suggest that you could, and just skip over the spicy scenes. The ones at the end are, at first, there's one that's not plotline relevant, and then there's one that kind of half is in character dynamic development stuff, but it's not necessary, and there is like at least a good chapter that just completely skippable, and has no relevance to anything going on. And fortunately, because sometimes this happens in TV shows or in books where the spicy scenes are there and then there's something important going on, so it makes it difficult to skip because you're going to miss the important stuff. But in this one, the spicy scenes, thankfully, are all easily skippable. There's nothing important that happens. You're not going to miss anything. Just skip right over them. So I could have done without those, but it's still not enough to deter me from just reading and skipping, and it's not enough to dock a star because the ideas of this book are so creative. I mean, the fact is that this author has gotten me not just into reading again, because I've read, like I said, The Inmate, which was just a one-time standalone one and done thing, again, and listening to Star Wars Brotherhood last year. But this author has gotten me into reading a book series again. The last time I got addicted to a book series like this was probably when I was back in high school, which, for reference, guys, was about 10 years ago. So it's been a good decade since I've read a book series and got addicted to it and read one after the other, like a book after the other. The only books that I've really read consecutively, I would say, are the novelizations to the Star Wars novels, and there's 3 of those. And they're not really a series. They're written by different authors. They have completely different writing styles. They're only connected in the sense that they are the novelizations to the movies, so I wouldn't count them as a book series. So I read those. That is the only thing I've read since really Cassandra Clare's Mortal Instruments. No, I read her Infernal Devices series and The Dark Artifices, but Cassandra Clare was like the only author that I read for the longest time. And I would be reading her new stuff, but I really don't care. It's the past stuff. I prefer her modern day stuff. So, but yeah, overall, 5 stars for this book, A Court of Mist and Fury, Sara J. Maas. Again, she gets by with a lot of crap in her editing that I was like questioning why the editor let some of these things slide and why she didn't change it. There are so, like, there's a lot of fragments, and it feels like, again, I'm going to confirm that it's probably her stylistic choice to be dramatic. And I mean, it works, but like my editing brain is just like, like alarms going off in my brain, like that needs to be changed, that needs to be fixed. And it's a little distracting, but she gets by with it. I don't know how this book got famous with those in there, because me and all my author friends and every indie author I know are all like, we have to edit, it has to be flawless, it has to be perfect, or it will not go anywhere. And like, it doesn't really do any good. So at this point, I'm throwing my hands up in the air, like, is editing even, like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Either that or there's some sort of editing stylistic choice that I'm missing in all this mess. But overall, 5 stars. I love it. I literally am tempted to start reading the 3rd book, but 1, I don't want to go through it too fast, and 2, I want to savor my thoughts a bit and stuff. It's just, it's so good. So if you liked this video and this review, please give this a like and subscribe for more writing and reading videos every Monday, including some future book reviews, since I'm seeming to like this series. Speaking of which, if you want to check out my book review on the 1st book of this series, if you're curious to what I thought about it and what started this whole addictive process into the series, then click here. You do not want to miss it.